Hey guys, this is Super Matt, and this is another Mortgage Minute with Matt Kern today. And I have my dear friend Jim Juergens on with Certainty Home Loans. What's going on, Jim?
Hey, Matt. Hey, thanks so much for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here. Kind of worked with you on a few things in the past, and this is always a great turnout and a great event. So thanks for letting me come on.
Hey man, we appreciate you being on this Good Friday day. So happy Good Friday to you. And so I wanted to have Jim on today because he's a man of town. He knows what's going on in this marketplace. And I want him to discuss with us and teach us a little bit about what he's seen going on since the beginning of this that's been affecting our market area. So Jim, I'm going to let you have it, buddy. Go for it.
All right, man. Well, I think as I've been doing these talks, it's always helpful to figure out, okay, when this started, how did we get here, and really what the heck is going on? I know there's a lot of misinformation that we've seen on social media, and just kind of being a voice of reason, a positive voice of reason is really what our whole goal is here. So let's kind of take a step back. All this really kicked off back on March 9th. Okay, I come into the office, long-term 30-year fixed rates were at 3% and below.
Wow.
Katie bar the door, everybody starts calling, refinance boom starts happening. Hey, we're busy, phone's ringing, it's great, right? And then probably about mid-morning, early afternoon, rates had already bounced up about a half a point. And it's kind of weird because you're talking to clients in the morning, they call back and I'm like, well, it's no longer available. And we didn't see that kind of market volatility prior to that point. So all week we saw rates just going up and down wildly to where, of course, I leave for Florida on Wednesday, and the market is 5 or 6 rate changes for the worse. And it's just a crazy time trying to lock people in. I had people on the phone trying to lock in rates. Rates changed twice while I'm on the phone with them. So jumbo, that's when the first jumbo investors started exiting the market. We had one of our jumbo investors really shut down their lock department on Friday. So when the market closed on Friday, you saw conventional 30-year fixed rates go from 3% on Monday to 4.25% on Friday afternoon.
Wow.
All right. So the volatility continued. Monday, much more of the same. Tuesday, it's like the market came back, and now rates were back down in the low threes. So the yo-yo continued. 4 or 5 rate changes on Tuesday, 4 or 5 more on Wednesday, and by the time the market closed on Thursday afternoon, rates were at 4.875 on a 30-year fixed. Okay. Trying to get people locked in during that time was crazy. There's so much volatility, unlike we'd seen ever in the mortgage industry, and I've been doing this for 16 years. Okay. So the Fed steps in and said, hey, we're going to start buying mortgage-backed securities again. So they made an announcement on Sunday, hey, we're cutting the Fed funds rate to 0. So what happens is now my phone blows up on Sunday saying, hey, heard rates are 0, let's go. No, that's not the way it works. So the Fed is going to start buying mortgage-backed securities. Yeah. But the best example that I've heard in how to describe this, right? Because the biggest problem you're seeing is the servicing side of the mortgage business. Okay. After the Fed lowered the Fed funds rate and they started buying mortgage-backed securities, it helps to give some stability in the market, which is great. But they had an unintended consequence on the mortgage servicing side. So let's say I close a loan and I'm going to sell it to a servicing company who is just going to basically handle that transaction for the final investor. And for this example, it's called Fannie Mae. Okay. So let's say you have a servicing company that I send a loan to. They have $1 billion portfolio. Okay. All right. So the final investor says, hey, there are certain thresholds that we have to have. The value of that portfolio can't fall below this threshold, or they're going to do what they call a margin call, and I got to send them all this additional cash as a servicing company. Right. So as loans are refinanced off my $1 billion portfolio, the value of that portfolio continues to fall. Okay. So now you've got the Fed stepping in and saying, hey, now we're going to let people put their loans in forbearance. So I don't have to make my mortgage payment for 3 months, 6 months, or what have you. But the thing is, that sounds great to the consumers, but the servicing company still has to make those payments to the investors.
That's right.
Okay. So now servicing companies are bleeding cash. So my $1 billion portfolio, refinances are coming off. I'm losing value. Forbearance happens, losing value. So now margin calls start happening from the investors, and servicing companies are having to fork over boatloads of cash that they don't have. Okay. And if they try and sustain that, it's going to put them out of business. So as an example, Mr. Cooper has a $645 billion portfolio, servicing portfolio. Now, let's just talk FHA, for example, the government loans. If 25% of FHA, VA, and USDA borrowers put their loan in forbearance for 3 months, that's a $36 billion hit to the servicing companies. Okay. If they did it for 9 months, that's $100 billion. To put that in perspective, the entire servicing industry net profit last year was $10 billion. Okay. So just think about that for a second. You got servicing companies, value of their portfolios are going down. They're forking over cash for margin calls, right? So that is where you're seeing a lot of liquidity issues, a lot of capacity issues. There were $6 trillion worth of mortgages eligible for refinance in the month of March.
Wow.
The entire mortgage industry, including purchase business, did $2 trillion last year. So imagine 3 times the amount of business you do in a year hitting the market in a month.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Fed buying mortgage-backed securities, man, it sounds great, kind of stabilize the market. But the unintended consequence is they kept bringing rates down. What happens when rates go down? More refinances, more off the value of that portfolio. So
Right.
that's where we started seeing some issues, and they continue to see issues to where now you've got, as of yesterday or the day before, Congress is trying to come up with a liquidity bin, if you will, for these servicing companies to be able to handle all this stuff going on. All right. So that is kind of in a nutshell what you've been seeing is the servicing side has really dried up. Mr. Cooper, these big companies have said, hey, we're tapping the brakes on any servicing. We're not buying any more servicing.
Okay.
So what does that mean? Well, now where am I going to sell my loans?
Right.
Okay. The companies you're seeing, and I've heard, loan officers on social media posting, hey, FHA is going away. I saw something on Housing Wire did COVID kill FHA financing? Guys, come on. FHA financing is not going away, but the risk tolerances for lenders is changing. All right. So for the things that are going away are things like your 580 credit score FHA, 580 credit score VA, because those are risky loans. So what happens if you have a loan that you do a 580 VA loan, as an example, they put their loan in forbearance. Well, now I've got that loan sitting on my warehouse line that's clogging up space, so I cannot fund any more loans. So that's where you're running into capacity issues. If I have money tied up my warehouse line that I can't clear off because I have no place to sell it, that affects my ability to fund future loans, and now I'm in trouble. Okay. So you're seeing lender to lender change guidelines to a point where you see some at 620 on FHA, some at 680 at FHA. Okay. So that's how they're mitigating their risk, because they don't want to take a chance on funding a loan that's going to be sitting on their warehouse line and affect their ability to close loans in the future. Okay. I've seen some big investors who just basically price themselves out of the market. That's how they try and control flow. So somebody sent me rate sheets for a pretty big, well-known company, and their rates were so ridiculous that they didn't want any business. It was quite obvious that they were trying to slow down the faucet because they were having problems clearing out warehouse lines.
Understood.
I know other lenders who have shut down their lock department, saying, hey, we're not taking any more new locks. We're not funding any new loans till mid-April. Imagine being a loan officer in that environment.
Yeah.
So every lender is being a little bit different. Okay. So we are at 620 on all our FHA stuff as of whatever time it is right now. That could change. But I know several big name companies are as high as 680 on that stuff. So when people say FHA is going away, that's what they're talking about.
Okay, understood. That's a lot of good information. So can you explain to us what you specialize yourself with certainty home loans, what you're best at, and what do you want to help people with? And then your final walkout is, what do you want people to know for sure right now, today, and going into next week? What should we be aware of and, and keep an eye out for? Okay.
Okay. So one thing, we are a lender. We have our own money. Okay. We are backed by a $500 billion hedge fund.
Oh, that's
so
awesome.
We're okay. We're okay on cash. Our liquidity position is great.
Okay.
So we're not struggling there. All right.
Okay.
When I talk to our agents, probably 90% of the business we do is not being affected by this at all. Okay. We don't have a lot of your 580 credit score people, your 620, some people have just stopped doing bond loans altogether. All right. Okay. So I just closed a bond loan earlier in the week. So that's kind of where our niche is. Your conventional, I do a lot of mortgage planning. All right. It's a little bit different than a loan officer. We actually build mortgage financial plans for clients to show them how to create wealth through the decisions we make with our clients, to kind of show them how do you put themselves in a position to pay off your loan whenever you want, and then discuss, is that even a good idea? Yeah. Right. So that's a different niche to the market that just, I don't know any other people that are really doing that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the message I want to leave with everybody, we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I kind of feel like there's some pent up demand happening because the jobs market before all this started was very good.
Yeah.
Okay. We were having record January, record February, and then this happened. So now people have lost their jobs. I think 10 million people plus in the last couple of
Yeah.
weeks have filed for unemployment.
Yeah.
There's going to be a kind of once you get past this, there's going to be some demand for people to go out there and want to get back out there and just start buying homes.
Yes.
So the agents and people watching this just need to be ready, right? You're having to get a little bit unique with how you market properties and your virtual open houses. And, I know some agents who are doing FaceTime calls with clients walking through a house.
Right.
That will pass, right? But just be ready, encourage people to put your house in the market.
Yeah.
Right. I've got buyers out there and you may find it a better deal right now because people are kind of scared to let people in their house.
Yeah.
So then maybe they're like, hey, let's just get the thing sold.
Yeah.
And I've got clients who are making offers on houses now, multiple offers. So the market is still great. So the mindset of people watching this really has to be, we're going to come out of this and the rest of 2020 is going to be a great year. Right. I kind of liken this to kind of a hiccup in the middle of the year. And I don't mean to downplay what's going on, but we're going to come out of this, kind of get right back into it. May not be a month or two down the road, but it's still going to be a great year. So I want to just encourage you guys, be careful with what you watch on social media. There's a lot of doom and gloom, and just watch things like this of, hey, we're going to come out of this, use this time to try and hone your skills and get ready to go. So once this thing is lifted, we can get going and have 2020 still be the best year you got.
Oh, for sure. So Jim, how are you handling people who are either getting furloughs or they're getting laid off and, and they've got some money in, they've got a good credit score, they've been paying their bills on time, but now you've taken a salary reduction, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you go, well, I was just about ready to go buy a house, so what would you tell them? What should we do?
Well, right now, one of the biggest issues you're seeing is verification of employment, right? Self-employed folks, there's a few extra steps, and this is where you shouldn't see a big variance between lenders here, but they're verifying employment the day before closing, and oftentimes in some programs the day after closing. Your self-employed borrowers, there's a few extra hoops that they've got to jump through. They're going to want their 2020 P&L. To show that they've made some money, and they may ask for, do you have any receipts of funds of jobs you've done in the last 10 days or 10 days before closing? So those are some extra steps, and you're just gonna have to let clients know, I've got to get your supervisor's cell phone number at times to verify employment. Because if they're off work or they're not working out of their office, we have to be able to verify that.
Oh, sure.
So if you've got someone who's been furloughed, right, we're going to want to get them back to work. And I've got someone who basically works he's a hairstylist, and he's just going to have to wait until he gets back to work because right now I don't have any pay stubs. Okay. So those people who are furloughed are just going to need to push pause right now. I've got several American Airlines employees. Fortunately, these people are still working and their jobs are secure. I've got one Southwest Airlines pilot. He's been doing it 24 years. He's not having any issues. But the verification employment piece is very, very important. Where you're just going to have to make sure that, hey, I got to be able to verify employment, verify income before you can get a loan. They're waiting later in the process to be able to make sure that someone has not lost their job right before closing.
Yeah, I understood. That's good information today. Wow, that was a lot, right? You really spit it out there today.
Yeah, that was a lot of information.
It's good information to share, and I'm sure that people are going to have some questions. So please ask your comments below or leave a comment below from this video, and I'll make sure that Jim is tagged in this video for our social media post, and then he'll respond to you, or if I see it, I'll get that over to him and make sure that we get a response for you guys who have watched this video. I can't thank you enough, brother. I appreciate you so much. I just always pray for God's blessing over you and your business and your family and health. And if you need anything, reach out to us. Have a great weekend. Get out, enjoy some warm weather today before it starts raining tomorrow. So,
yeah, I understand. Hey, thanks for having me on, Matt. I really appreciate it. You guys have a good Easter weekend. God bless.